so difficult to get into the letter when you're walking in the Ruach. How many enjoy the Ruach? Oh, Baruch Hashem. Wow. Santa Claus and Satan's throne. Unfortunately, this coming Tuesday is what day? Christmas. And we know, and we're going to get it and try to do this as quickly as we can, and maybe some of us don't know, because we're new to the Nazarene Israelite faith, and we need to understand why we don't celebrate Christmas. And remember, how many were here earlier in the beginning of the service? You remember when I told you about the throne of Satan connection with St. Nicholas? Remember? Can I see your hand if you were here? So I don't need to go there again. I want to go a little bit of a different direction. Britt, can you be so kind and get some cold water instead of get rid of the warm water? Let's take a look at Santa, unfortunately. Now, we're not doing this to glorify the devil. We're doing this to educate and to train, because the word of Yahweh is profitable for what? Correction, instruction, doctrine, that the man of Yahweh and the woman of Yahweh may be what? Thoroughly furnished unto every tov work. A lot of people coming out of the church system or coming out of religion don't really know what's wrong with Christmas. The modern day Santa Claus is an American version, as we learned, is an American version of St. Nicholas, a 4th century Roman Catholic bishop from Asia Minor who was noted for his good deeds and gift giving. This tradition first spread throughout Europe and then found its way to America by the early Dutch settlers. I need more microphone, Chris. I don't know if Marcel's back there. Open up the monitors and give me a little bit more mic. Colossia, that's good, Chris. Good job, thank you. Colossia, chapter 2, verse 8. Colossia, chapter 2. What a presence. I hope and pray the radio audience, our brothers and sisters, can feel that with us. Wow. It's very difficult to preach after the Ruach HaKodesh falls. Very difficult. Because your flesh just wants to sit there and enjoy. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it's hard for you to get into the Word because you're into the Spirit. We know those who worship Yahweh must worship Him in what? In Ruach and in Emet. And when you are in Ruach, sometimes it's tough to shift gears and get into the Emet. But Yahweh will help us. Colossia, chapter 2, verse 8. Beware, children of Israel, believers. Beware lest any man devour you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men. Turn to your neighbor and say, traditions of men. Let's try the other side. Traditions of men. After the elementary matters of the Olam Hazeh, and not after Mashiach. So Christmas is a vain tradition of man, which is a beggarly matter of the world, and has nothing, turn to your neighbor and say nothing. That was better. Nothing to do with Mashiach. Mashiach, or the Greek version, is not the reason for the season. The real reason for the season is the throne of Satan, who produced a bishop called St. Nicholas, who evolved into Santa Niklaus, or Santa Claus. But so those who honor Christmas and those who honor Santa Claus in any way, shape, or form, including sitting on his lap in shopping malls, have engaged and tapped into the powers of darkness emanating from the throne of Satan that produced St. Nicholas, that later evolved through Europe to S.A.Tan, or Santa Claus. Yahweh's word warns us we shouldn't be deceived by vain traditions. Satan's desire, Satan, has been to dethrone Yahweh and to exalt himself. We see that in Yeshayahu 14:12. He desires worship, Luke 4:7, 2 Thessalonians 2:3. Now we're going to see how this man, produced by the throne of Satan, is now the benevolent fat man of the religious world and even the secular world. And everyone, turn to your neighbor and say everyone, everyone that has anything to do with Christmas, not just heavily into Christmas, but anything to do with Christmas, is involved in saint worship. If you believe worshiping saints is wrong, you can have nothing to do with Santa Claus. Because the worshiping of the acceptance of Santa Claus is in fact saint reverence and worship. Let's compare the devil's cheap substitute for Yeshua. And this is going to blow you away. Christmas is absolutely unacceptable on anybody's terms if their terms are biblical terms. Can I hear a good amen? Amen. But they invited me. Fine, go on December 26th. But they cooked dinner. Great, go on December 23rd. Do not go on December 25th. Because we are in the world, but not of the world. Santa is eternal. A child knows nothing of Santa's beginning. We don't know where Santa, unless you learn these things with us, or with another ministry that can teach these things. A child knows nothing of Santa's beginning. To a child, Santa is eternal. When you were a child, did you believe in Santa Claus? Let's be honest. I did. Well, you were fortunate. You were chosen. You were chosen. But I did, and guess what? What my parents and others that wanted me to believe in Santa Claus never told me was where he came from. He came from the North Pole, but how did he get to the North Pole? Well, say Santa is an eternal being. Look, in all the stories that you heard as a child about Santa, no one ever bothered telling you that Santa was not eternal. You thought he always was. He was to those children, he is to me as a child, and he will be to my children. He's some dude that always was. He's presented to the world as being eternal. If you go to Revelation, Gilead, we see that Santa is a counterfeit to the only one who is immortal, eternal, the only invisible and wise Yahweh. Go to Gilead, chapter 1, verse 8. So they told us the fairy tale about Santa Claus, but they never bothered telling us where he came from. Thus, the insinuation is that he is what? Eternal, immortal, and his beginnings were invisible. Gilead 1:8, I am Aleph and Tav, says Yahshua. The beginning and the end, says the Master Yahweh. Who was, who is, who was, and who is to come, the eternal Almighty. So we see that Satan has raised up Saint Nicholas from the seed of Satan, and evolved him through Europe, and through Europe he became, Saint Nick became Sinterklaas, and Sinterklaas is now an eternal being that shows up wherever children are gathered. He's eternal. That's the way the world perceives Santa. He was around for our parents, he'll be around for me, and he'll also be around for my grandchildren. Santa's just always been. Come on now, don't get religious on me. That's the way Santa is presented to the world. He's just always been around. But we know there's only one eternal, and that's Yeshua HaMashiach, a counterfeit. Number 2. Turn with me to Tehillim 48, verse 2. Yeshua lives in the north. Yeshua lives in the north of Mount Zion, in heaven, And in the Holy of Holies, on the northern part of the Temple Mount, when his Shekhinah, the divine presence, was in the temple before Jewish leaders rejected Yeshua. Tehillim 48 and verse 2. Let's go back to verse 1. Tehillim 48 verse 1. Psalm 48 verse 1. Great is Yahweh and greatly to be praised in the city of our Elohim, in the Har, the mountain of his what? Set apartness. Beautiful on high. The simcha of the whole earth is Har Sion. On the sides of the north, you will find on Mount Zion the city of the great Melech. Yeshua lives in the north, and that's why the Holy of Holies was built on the northern part of Mount Zion. And whoa, and lo, and ho, 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 ho. Is Santa Claus was coming from the north. Isn't that interesting? Tradition holds, especially among Santa Clausiologists, the leading Santa Clausiologists have confirmed that the eternal Santa, como Santeria, has come to us somewhere from the great north. And moreover, he lives where? In the North Pole. A place above the rest of us. We're all down here. And Satan's false king, Santa Claus, lives up here, and we all live down here, because Satan has raised up Santa Claus from Turkey, from the seed of Satan, to go out into the world and to deceive all the nations. Isn't that interesting? St. Nick was a pastor in Turkey. I mean, it blows my mind when I think about it. And he snuck into the Council of Nicaea. Not only he snuck in, he was clandestine, secretive, and he didn't belong there, and he wound up slapping another bishop over the doctrine of the Trinity. Santa Claus has been a bad boy for a long time. His problems didn't start with us, guys. He was slapping folks around at Nicaea, and Constantine put him in jail. Now, if Constantine deems you to be a bad boy, you got some serious issues. Because Constantine was not exactly a choir boy, although actually he was. Number 3, if you're so unfortunate to be taking notes. Santeria, or Santa Claus, wears a beautiful red wardrobe. Correct? Who is that mimicking? Who is that mocking? Who is that blaspheming? Our master, Yeshua, our Maria, Yeshua. For it is written, go with me to Gileanah 19:3. Santa Claus and Satan's throne. Santa Claus and Satan's throne. We will not be celebrating Christmas this Tuesday. I serve notice on the devil. I serve notice on my family. I serve notice on my children. I serve notice on anyone who's will. I and my house, as for me and my house, Yehoshua 24:15, we will, this Tuesday, we will be serving Yahweh. Can I hear a good amen? To God about Yahweh. Closed for business. Don't knock. Not interested. Gileanah 19:13. Yeshua comes to the earth. He returns to the earth. And he was clothed with a long talit, dipped in red blood. Dipped in red blood, dam. And his name is called the Devar Yahweh. Why is Satan outfitted in a red suit and not a gray suit? Because when Moshiach returns, he wears a talit dripped in blood. Santa Claus is mimicking the precious atoning blood of the Master Yeshua. Can I hear a good amen? I said, can I hear a good amen? Guess what? I've checked in with Santa Claus's hairdresser. And guess what? The bad news is he refused his coloring appointment. He refused to get his hair dyed. His hair remains what? Blanco. His hair remains white. Santa is pictured as an old man with white hair, kind of like wool. Can I hear a good oh man? Or oh my, whatever the case may be. Santa Claus is pictured as an old man with hair, white hair, like wool. Giuliana 1:14. Let's see another mockery from the seed of Satan that produced and gave us a Saint Nicholas that has evolved through Europe into Santa Claus. Giuliana 1:14. This is one of the many reasons we will not be celebrating Christmas on Tuesday. The risen Yeshua's head, if you could see him today, this is what he looks like. His head and his hair were white like wool, and if his head and his hair is white, guess what else is white? His barba. His beard is white. Can I hear a good amen? So when that clown dresses up in a white beard and a white hair, what is he doing? He is mocking the risen, resurrected Yeshua, who is Kadosh, Kadosh, and Kadosh some more. You think the comparisons end there, my friend? No. Unfortunately, they don't. Again, this is the object produced by the throne of Satan, coming to us courtesy of Turkey, courtesy where all the other demons came from throughout the years of Greek mythology, the altar of Zeus. And lo and behold, the thing that trips up every race, every nationality, and religion. I mean, after all, who doesn't love Christmas? Protestants, Catholic, Jews. Everybody loves a little taste. And if they don't love Christmas, they get involved. They have a love for Father Christmas. Come on. It's benign. It's not malignant. It's nothing wrong with it. So Satan doesn't need Islam. He uses Islam. But Islam and the throne of the beast have produced something more effective than Islam. An ecumenical substitute for Yeshua that everyone loves unless they are mentally ill. If someone doesn't love Santa, they're perceived to be religiously obnoxious or mentally ill. Let's be honest. You don't love Santa, Judith? Something's wrong with you, girl. You don't love Santa? Are you under psychiatric care? Brother, let's be honest. Are you currently under psychiatric care? Santa flies around giving gifts. Comes from the north, where Yeshua is king. And Santa has the ability somehow to defy the laws of gravity and fly around from every location and every place on earth to bring gifts to people. You ever wonder how Satan gets around? Yeah, Rudolph. Santa Claus uses Rudolph just to make good time. But how many know that Santa Claus doesn't need Rudolph? He uses Rudolph when he wants to get around quicker. You ever wonder how he flies everywhere at the same time and he never runs out of gas? I could say something, but I won't. It's like, oh sure, first he's coming to Amsterdam, then he's going to Paris, then he'll be in London, then he'll be in Prague. And not only is he in Prague and New York and Phoenix, he just gets around. Somehow he'll be in all these places at the right time to drop off the gifts for the children, because everybody knows Santa Claus, or really Satan, gets around. So basically he has this unique flying ability that somehow defies the laws of gravity, that enables him to fly around and give gifts to people. Turn to your neighbor and say, gifts to people. Now go to Ephesia. Ephesians 4, 7 and 8. Another mockery and mimic and imitation of the King of Kings and the Adon Adonim. Ephesians 4, 7. But to every one of us is given unmerited favor according to the measure of the gift of Mashiach. He's the gift giver. Who's the gift giver? Mashiach. Baruch Hashem, Yahweh. Now look at verse 8. That is why the scripture says, when Yeshua ascended on high, he led captivity captive. Anna was talking about that before. And when he ascended leading captivity captive, he gave, notice, he gave spiritual gifts to men. So who's the great gift giver? Yeshua HaMashiach. So Satan raises up St. Nicholas, the pastor of Myra, and St. Nicholas becomes Santa Claus, and all of a sudden he's the gift giver, and Yeshua is no longer the gift giver, and so he replaces Yeshua as the giver of true, lasting, spiritual gifts of value to mankind. You see this? Santa Claus is the gift giver. We know Yeshua because Yeshua, it says in Yaakov 1:17, what? Every good and perfect gift comes from above, from the Father of lights, in whom there is no variableness or shadow of turning. Somebody. Every good and perfect gift comes from the Father of lights. Lights? Ooh. Now there's another pagan connection. So Santa has the ability to fly around and give gifts to men. Of course, he didn't die and rise from the dead in order to do that. He just somehow flies around. Next, Santa Claus is coming soon to a theater near you. Hello? Santa Claus is coming soon to a theater near you. Some of you may be saying, not my theater, honey.
That's right.
During Christmas, it is emphasized over and over again that Santa Claus is not just coming, pero he's coming. Don't worry, child. He's coming. Santa's coming to town, right? Santa Claus is, right, coming to town. That's a mockery of what? Of the second coming of Yeshua. Go with me to Gileanah 22:20. Gileanah 22:20. Notice. Yeshua, the one who testifies these things, says, surely I am returning quickly. Coming quickly. Amen. Even so. Come, Master Yeshua. So when is constantly emphasized in the world that Santa is coming quickly, it is a mockery of the true coming of Yeshua to rule and reign from Jerusalem. Instead of the world looking to Yeshua to return, the world is looking for when Santa is coming. Can I hear a good amen? I mean, I know there's a lot about Christmas that we're not going to discuss today. We don't have the time to get to everything. But I want you to focus in on the focal figure or the chief head honcho of Christmas. Let's focus in on him, just like Yahweh, Yeshua is the express image of the Father, so Santa Claus is the express image of the throne of Satan in these last days. Can I hear a good amen? Amen. In other words, the throne of Satan has the violent manifestations of Islam, but also the more comical and the more peaceful and the more benign manifestations of the Sinterklaas, Santa Claus. I mean, it's harmless, they say. Yeah, most people say a little belief in Santa Claus is harmless. He is the face of Christmas. So Santa is coming soon. We know really the world should be looking for Yeshua's coming soon, and instead they're looking for Santa Claus to come down soon to a chimney near you. Baruch Hashem.